Paul Hudrick, the Sixer season we know came to an end. We discussed a lot of the fallout from game number 7. Now, Daryl Morey spoke yesterday. Now, I know that you didn't get the live version of Daryl Morey. How is everything doing with the poison ivy there? I saw the arm all wrapped up.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. No, yeah, I'm good. I just had to they put me on a steroid. I'm all good to go now. It's just super uncomfortable, but I'm just fine.
This isn't like Sunday night frustration of seeing that game and just running through the forest, is it?
No, but with that said, I think I would rather be experiencing this than talk about Ben Simmons for the next 4 months. But here we are.
Well, and that's just it. Is it entirely about Ben Simmons? What did you take mostly from Daryl Morey? Because I don't know that he committed to one thing or another. But what was maybe a key message from Daryl Morey yesterday from your takes? I have a few myself, but I'm interested to see what kind of stood out in that presser from you.
Yeah, a few things. Clearly, he is in Doc Rivers' corner. Doc Rivers is under no type of fear or pressure to do anything next season because it felt like a Doc Rivers love fest with Daryl Morey yesterday, which I don't, do I think Doc Rivers as a whole did a really good job with his team? Yes, I think he got the most out of a lot of guys. But that said, I didn't agree with a lot of the things he did down the stretch. Now, it's not going to do anyone any good for Daryl Morey to go out and rip Doc Rivers at the same time. But there was that. I thought I liked some of the things Daryl said as far as the one thing that he said multiple times was we don't want to overreact and we don't want to underreact to what we just saw. And I think that's where a lot of people are. A lot of people, and I get it, people react emotionally. You root for this team all season long. They get the number 1 seed. Everyone thought they were going. I'm still in disbelief that it's the Eastern Conference Finals tonight and the Sixers aren't in it. So for, with all that, but you can't overreact and you still have to focus on the other things. And you can't just say, oh, trade Ben Simmons for a bag of basketballs. Like you can't think like that. And so that stood out. And then also just how complimentary he was of the young players. Like clearly he thinks guys like Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, Shake Milton, like he thinks that those guys are going to push for big minutes next year. And he might not be wrong. I think those guys could be a big part of their future. And then that's not even talking about, a guy like Isaiah Joe, who I think could be a factor, or even Paul Reed.
I do agree with that I said it was definitively him praising Doc Rivers and that it's almost to the point that did you feel that Rivers has a lot more power than most? I mean, that they almost respect him and what he thinks more than almost anybody else.
Well, it's the relationship that they have. Daryl and Doc go way, way back, all the way back to the Boston days. So I think it's just that mutual respect. And I think Daryl has always wanted to work with Doc. So, it's a human nature thing to a certain extent. Like, I think we all just, in all of us in our daily lives, whether it's work or just in our personal relationship, we all have kind of people we gravitate to and people we gravitate towards, and we really respect and appreciate what they say. And clearly Daryl and Doc are on that level where, they both had a mutual appreciation for each other and have both always really wanted to work with each other. So I think, the Daryl Morey gushing thing, I think it's just, that's a big part of it. It's just that he's always admired Doc. And that's a part of the big reason why Daryl chose to come here. Because remember, Doc was here first and then Daryl showed up. So I mean, it's clear that mutual respect is very big in the Sixers organization, and that they're kind of tied to the hip at this point, I would say.
There's no question that I took the same thing you did, was that Morey was very, and it was almost like he met with Ben Simmons and I didn't even need to go in there because those two had a meeting. Like it was like, you're the president of basketball operations. You didn't sit in to say, hey, Ben, I'm going to need more from you, and I need to know, that to me was the odd part of it, is that it was almost as if, now I don't know that maybe they did, he just didn't want to talk about it, as if Morey hasn't actually sat down and talked to Ben about, hey, what happened in this series?
Yeah, I mean, every executive's different, though. I think there are a lot of executives that, you saw the movie Moneyball and the whole thing with, Billy Beane, didn't want to interact with players because it was easier to trade them or cut them. I don't know if that's where Daryl Morey's head is, but I think Daryl, and he kind of mentioned this in the presser yesterday, he trusts the evaluation of Doc and Doc's coaches. He trusts their evaluations of what they think. And then it's Daryl's job to go fix to make solutions. So whatever so I think I understand what you're saying, but I think what's more important is Doc and Ben have that relationship, and then Doc and Daryl have that relationship, so that you know what I mean. Daryl can read, because you got to look at it like this. Like it's kind of like too with the whole Bill Parcells thing with the shopping for the groceries, like that kind of a thing, where I think Daryl wants to make sure that Doc has the guys he wants and has the guys that make sense for him that he can get the most out of. So if Doc has a meeting with Ben Simmons and that goes really well, and Doc Rivers turns to Daryl Morey and says, you know what, I think we could get this guy on the right track, whether he's right or wrong. We think we can get this guy on the right track, and I want to give him another shot. And then, as things come up, I'm sure if someone calls tomorrow asking about Ben Simmons, one, Daryl Morey's not going to hang up the phone, but two, I'm sure Doc Rivers is going to have some input on whether or not a decision ultimately gets made.
Yeah, I think, one thing that Morey did say is kind of bouncing off of what you said was 25, 26 other teams would like to be where we are. I don't understand this narrative that we're in a bad spot. I don't want to say they're in a bad spot, but I hate to use the process, but that was to put them at the next level. Are they at a similar level that they were prior to 2013? Are they above that?
No, they're definitely above that, I would say. I mean, I think this is more similar to, I don't want to compare it because I just feel like I get what I get what some people are saying, where it's not, the situation with Ben Simmons right now isn't great. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. It's just not great. He makes a lot of money, and you're not sure what he is. You know a lot of what he isn't, and so that's not great. And you don't know where his head's at. You don't know where he's going to be mentally going into next year. You don't know what he's going to do this offseason. So there's just a lot of question marks with that. But I get where Daryl's coming from, where you have a guy who, finished second in MVP voting, but what many people would say was the best player in the NBA this season. You have Tobias Harris, who a lot of people think should have been an all-star. You have pretty good young players. I mean, you have also Seth Curry locked up for the next 2 seasons, who was tremendous in the playoffs. You have Matisse Thybulle, you have Tyrese Maxey, you have Shake Milton. You have these young guys who are going to be part of that foundation. So I think what Daryl's saying is a lot of, like, look at a team like the Nets. They're so all in on those 3 guys and all that money, and how are they going to make that work going forward, and how are they going to supplement their roster? Not to say the Nets are in a bad spot either, but I just think, when you look at the Sixers and their age of their players too, I think all of they're in a better spot. Let's say, put it like this: they're in a much better spot going into this offseason than they were going into last offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have said, and I agree, by the way, because there's a lot of people who think, and I hate to get into this, if the process failed. Look, that's way past. Like, to me, it has been a home run because of what we do, right? In terms of, they lose on Tuesday night in February, and you're pissed. They lose on Tuesday night in February in the past. You barely knew they played. Like, nobody cared about this team. Now you almost care too much. That was the goal. They could tell you it's about winning championships. No. It's a business. They wanted you to consume their product again because the fans gave up on that product because they knew the ending. Is it a success championship-wise? No. Are they in a better place as a franchise? Absolutely. Now, off your point, you could say they overachieved. They were the 6th seed that got swept last year with horrible contracts and a roster that you look like, where are we going? What are we doing? Last offseason was about clearing the books and resetting that. I think Morey now is not content, is intending. He fixed the books, and now I got to fix this roster. The question is, where does he start fixing it? How does he start to kind of mold the team that he wants after he got those contracts that were crippling out of here?
And that's where he was kind of vague yesterday, is he didn't really say what he's looking for. He just said better players, whatever that means. Take that for what you want. I think one guy he would have liked to have here and who saw has made a difference with the Milwaukee Bucks. And a lot of people, Mike, you and I, when we talked about wanting to get in here, a lot of people were like, oh, PJ Tucker. Who cares about PJ Tucker? Looks pretty darn good in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform, and he's helped them get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they could use more guys like that, for lack of a better term, dogs, like guys who are just straight dogs who want to compete, who want to fight, who want to push. Danny Green is a guy who is like that. And like, to me, that's not. I'm not saying this to like to say be disrespectful to any players that are on the Sixers, but how many guys or even like a guy like it didn't work out last night for them, but Patrick Beverley, man, he gave that team every ounce of energy he had, and for the most part held Devin Booker in check for most of the night. Like the Sixers, I just don't feel like don't have enough guys like that, enough guys that just want to tear your heart out. That just, you know what I mean? Like enough guys that just want to beat you. And I think that's a big part of it. I think they could use some more veteran players like that. And listen, I think the Ben Simmons thing is going to be fascinating. I don't. They're not going to trade him for pennies on the dollar. They're going to get, if they're going to get something for him, they're going to get something of value. Like for people who just think like, oh, there's no way Ben Simmons will be in a Sixers uniform starting next season. You need to get that out of your head, because there's a good chance he is still here. If there is not a good deal out there for him, Daryl Morey's not just going to give him away. And if you're Daryl Morey, do you sell him for pennies on a dollar now while his value is at its absolute lowest? Or do you bring him into the season hoping that he improves, either to help you or to help his trade value? So maybe you move him during the season. So I mean, I just think people need to take a step back with that. But I think that's everything in the offseason is going to depend on how they feel about Ben Simmons and what other teams feel about Ben Simmons and what they could possibly get. Because there's a reason why he was so non-committal, Daryl Morey, when talking about Ben, because it's if Steph Curry wants out of Golden State, if Dame Lillard wants out of Portland, and part of that package is for Ben Simmons, you don't think twice. But also, I'm not going to trade him for D'Angelo Russell. Like you have to really have that kind of context about it. So I think that's that's going to be the big thing. It's going to be how they feel about Ben and what the other teams, what the market would look like if they could move him.
That's a good point. And Paul Hudrick's with us here, looking at what's next for the Sixers as a disappointing season. I guess when you look at Doc Rivers, we know he's not going anywhere, but how much of where they are right now and kind of this feeling is that there's been a lot of talk about him as a coach in game and talent. What's the word that they hired Brett Brown for? He was supposed to be a, to improve the talent, like player development. There we go, player development, player development. That is not Doc's strong suit, right? Player development. So is he the right guy as the coach of this team to work and develop Maxey, Thibault, Ben Simmons' shot? How do you feel about that moving forward?
I think a couple things. One, Ben Simmons definitely trusts Doc Rivers, and I don't think that's something you can discredit. He backed him.
Okay, after he said he wasn't. No. Okay, just making sure.
I still think I do. I think he still trusts Doc Rivers. He's mentioned it many times. He trusts Sam Cassell as well, who has worked with Ben, has worked with Tobias, has worked with Tyrese Maxey to help them. And I think when you're talking about development, this is why you hire a staff too. I mean, it's not just all on Doc Rivers, it's on those other coaches. And I think Sam Cassell is a huge part of that. I think that's, a big reason. I think, look, Ben is not a great example because he didn't play so hot, in the postseason, but look at Tobias. Tobias had a big year, and it wasn't just because of Doc Rivers. It was because he worked with Sam Cassell a lot too. Tyrese Maxey, how much he improved during his rookie season as a 20-year-old, to make a difference in the playoffs. I mean, this goes on Sam Cassell. So, I mean, I think part of being a good boss and running a good organization is hiring good people underneath you. And I think that's a big part of it. So Doc Rivers, maybe not the strongest with that necessarily, but I think that he's got some really good allies that can help him with that. And I think, and other coach, like Chris Babcock's been there for a while. I know Joel Embiid gives him a lot of credit. Tyler Lashbrook's a guy that I know Shake Milton has given a lot of credit to. So, I mean, they have good player development coaches that have helped develop some of these guys. With Ben Simmons, it's clearly mental. And that's why I'd almost rather have a coach that he trusts that can get through to him on that side of it, because I don't think it's physical. I think someone has to mentally and emotionally get through to him to make him see what he is and what he can become and what the best version of him is to help the Sixers.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. He says we have a plan for Ben. Did you read Weitzman's article in Fox?
I did. Very well written by your own.
All right, so we had him on yesterday. Fascinating conversation about the whole, hey, I didn't realize Simmons shot 70% in his rookie year in the playoffs. Like that to me was like, wait, what? And that they had this plan, and that Brett Brown had this plan, and then now we're going to go and do our own thing here. Is that going to be tolerated again, or are they like, Ben Simmons, you need to work here, otherwise we might have to do something about this? Like, can you allow him to do his own thing again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he worked this past offseason with Chris Johnson, who is, he also worked with Tyrese Maxey, he's worked with Rondo, he's worked with a lot of big name NBA players. So it's not like he went to some, I get, like, before I get when he was with John Townsend, who is a renowned shooting coach, and then he goes to work with his brother, who's a D3 college coach, with all due respect to his brother, that's not on the same level. You need a guy like that. You need these elite guys. So Chris Johnson, I don't think that was the problem, was who he was working out with. It was tough this past offseason too, because he was hurt. I mean, he's coming off that knee surgery, so he didn't have a ton of time to work and improve. That's not to make an excuse, because he's had other off seasons to do that. But I'm just saying, is part of it troubling? Is like the impact of his agency and the people around him influencing certain things? Yeah, that's a little troubling to me. And that might have been part of the conversation. I think when Doc Rivers said it the other day that, he talked about the difference and what he thinks the difference will be this year as compared to other off seasons. And Doc was pretty coy about it, but he seemed to indicate what you're saying, is that we didn't like what was going on before. We didn't like how he was going, what his offseason looked like before. We're going to make sure it doesn't look like that anymore, and it's better. So that's kind of a reason for optimism for me. But yeah, when I read your own article, really it was troubling, but not surprising to see kind of the meddling that was going on there with Clutch and with Ben's family, and just the weirdness there. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, I think he might be at a point where he's got too many people in his head, if that makes sense, and he's not doing enough stuff for himself. And I think I'm thinking, and I'm hoping for his sake, that's what Doc Rivers is talking about, where they're going to make decisions that they think are best for him, and they want him to be good with it too.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, the whole, Stephen A saying, well, he's enabled, and like that kind of stuff. Okay, somebody texted me and said that, whatever. I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he's being enabled, maybe that. But this whole story, and it kind of ties in where he's talking to, if he gets a one-on-one with Ben Simmons, and he's like, what about your shooting? And Ben's like, what about it? Really? Yeah. What about it? What kind of question is that? Like, what kind of response is that? Like, that's what baffles me more than anything, is that it's almost as if it's taboo to ask him or anybody else, hey, do you notice that this whole league shoots but you? And it's almost like he's like, well, I'm the only one that does this and nobody else does that. So why don't you ask the other 700, 400 players in the league, why don't they defend and pass the ball the way that I do? And then get back to me. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's a weird, it goes back to the mental aspect of it. And it's weird because it's not that he doesn't know that could help him. Like, he's very aware of that. And he's said that. He said it's another area of his game that he's going to grow. And we saw it grow, and then we saw it just die. So that's what's weird to me, is that it's the stages are what's weird to me, Mike, is
yes.
That summer league video that circulates every once in a while, where it's him taking elbow jumpers and fadeaways, and he's knocking them down with ease. And to your, the shooting 70% from the line as a rookie in the playoffs, and it's just like the deterioration of it. And like, I don't know what happened. Like, and like, honestly, the only person that really probably knows what happened is Ben Simmons. And it's because it's a combination of the skill not being his strongest, which is fine. But then he clearly works on it. So, like, I don't get the whole work thing. I think he does work on it, but it's that mental hurdle of just doing it in a game and just making that a part of, yes, you're a really good passer. Yes, you're a freight train in a transition. Yes, you're a great defender. But if you add this simple aspect to your game, and I thought another thing that was in your own article that was interesting is Brett Brown had it listed this way, and I agree with this order: free throw shooting, finishing at the rim, then three-pointers. That's exactly what I 100% agree with that. He needs to be a better free throw shooter so that when he gets to the rim, he gets fouled, he gets to the line, he makes them. He needs to be better finishing at the rim because if you're not going to shoot from the outside, you better have touch and you better be creative around the rim. And then 3 points last. Like that was the last of those three things. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I don't no one has an explanation. None of us know what happened from LSU to summer league to his, the rookie year he spent out, and then to the last 3 years where it's just deteriorated over the last 3 or 4 years. I can't make heads or tails of it. I really can't.
Yeah, that is another one. I'm no Ben Simmons hater. I appreciate his game. I do question whether he will put the work ethic in, and really come back a different player and really work hard on it, because it's like, okay, I've seen you shoot. I just don't know that you're going to implement it. Like, he could work his ass off this summer. Okay, great. Is he going to implement that? I don't know, man. Like, is him not shooting in a game saying, I didn't work on it, I'm not ready to implement it? When does that switch go? I don't know that I see that happening.
No, listen, Mike, I think anyone in this area is kidding themselves if they're thinking that Ben Simmons is going to, like, if they're automatically thinking that, okay, this is the wake-up call. And listen, it still could be. It could be the big wake-up call he needs. This might have been enough. If this wasn't enough, I don't know whatever will be, but this might have been enough for him to mentally say to himself, okay, I have to fix this. And I have to fix it now. I can't mess around. I have to listen to people. And I think that's the key word, listen. I think he's just got to listen to the right people and surround himself with the right people to improve in that way and to get over that mental block and that mental hurdle. Because I do think he works. I think he works. I think he tries. I think he cares. I think all of those things are true. But for some reason, when he gets, and I almost think that's like the example your own cited talking to him about the shot. I think it's like a defense mechanism because he knows he doesn't do it. I don't think that's a matter of, like, I don't even know if I think he's almost like lying to himself to try, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if he fully believes that he doesn't need to shoot or that he doesn't need to be better in those regards. I think it's almost like a reaction, like, whoa, well, I do this, that, and the other thing. Like, he just gets really defensive. Yeah. And I think that's all part of the mental aspect of it. Because I think that's 100% what it is. There's no, again, I don't love his form. I've said that all along. I still don't love his form. It's gotten a little bit better, but it's between the years. There's no doubt about it.
Do you think he's right-handed?
Might be.
I mean, that's now the news.
Listen,
not that it's new. I've heard people suggest it, but that's really starting to be like he's shooting with the wrong hand, and it's like, come on, really? Like, the guy, like, how the hell do you play in an NBA game and shoot with the wrong hand? Like, how does he not know that?
I guess if you've been doing it your whole life and at times it's worked for you, so you stuck with it. But I mean, I've seen videos of him shooting right-handed. It looks pretty natural. And when you look at him and his finishing numbers, he always goes to that right-handed hook shot. He loves to finish with his right hand at the rim. So, I mean, he does a lot of things. Like, so people always joke he signed the max contract with his right hand. I mean, it's so is that a thing that they could explore? Maybe. But here's how I look at it, though, Mike.
Could you imagine if he came out next year popping Jays right-handed?
Well, that's what it is. Like, are we talking about, like, if it's a move that they start doing early and it looks good and he starts feeling good and he starts feeling comfortable, maybe that can help the mental aspect of it because he'll feel better about it and that'll be the change. But if it's a built from the ground up thing, I don't know if that's going to work. So it's tough. I mean, I've only seen like one or two. I saw like one report where that could be something that they look into. But if that's the case, though, too, Mike, I think that's actually encouraging because if that's something that he's actually considering, that shows that it's on his mind and that he cares and that he wants to fix it. So that is in a way a positive sign to me.
Wow, that would be wild.
It's not unprecedented. Guys have done it before.
Yeah, I guess to let, like, I think I brought this up to you the other day. It's in Yaron's article. He has the video of him shooting the elbow jumpers in the summer league, like, fluidly, multiple times. If anybody said, what happened to this? What happened? Because anybody sat down and just been, what happened to this guy? Like, that is the most bizarre thing. All right, the last one to kind of get out of here would be, outside of Ben, is there a major move that you could see on the table?
Yeah, I mean, because I think they could. Daryl Morey is one of the most creative executives we've ever seen in the NBA. The things he's done, the way he's able to, to maneuver, what he did this past offseason, being able to not only get off of Al Horford's contract, but get a player in Danny Green who actually helped them win games, to move off from Josh Richardson and, again, get a guy in Seth Curry who helped them win a lot of games this year. On that small of a scale, he was able to do that in a short period of time. He didn't have a full offseason. So with a full offseason, I would not be surprised at all to see him explore some other avenues, whether it's a sign and trade using Danny Green and George Hill's contracts to maybe bring in a Kyle Lowry or something like that. I could 100% see Daryl swinging for the fences and making a big move like that to get a more perimeter player, a guard that can help alleviate some of the pressure off Ben Simmons, maybe push him at the same time. So I'll put it like this: with Daryl Morey, nothing's off the table. I could 100% see him making a big move and moving on from Ben Simmons and getting talent back here, or I could see him keeping his big trio intact and finding other ways to improve around them. I could see it going either way, because like the only thing I would say is probably off the table is I don't see him trading Joel Embiid. I don't think any other player on the entire roster.
He did suggest that it's hard to win with a big man. Was that a hint?
No, but that's not. I mean, that was more, I think, him saying something to the league, suggesting that, basically that Joel Embiid should get more calls and Trae Young should get less. That's how I interpreted it. I didn't interpret it as no. I think people that saw that, I think, looked into it a little too much.
You got
with Joel Embiid, it was as simple as the Hawks sent 3 guys on him, and the Sixers had no other options to beat them.
Yeah.
So they just kept doing it.
Who wins? Hawks, Bucks series.
I like the Bucks.
Easy?
I like the Bucks. I think they're a pretty complete team. I really do, and I think defensively you can show Trae. Drew Holiday's one of the best defensive guards in the entire league. You also have Middleton that you could put him on. Just maybe show him a little bit more size and stuff and length, and maybe change some coverages up. You could even maybe mess around and go with Tucker for a little bit, just to maybe rough him up a little bit, something like that. So I just think the options that Milwaukee has, the deepness of their team, even without DiVincenzo, they are still a really deep basketball team. So I just think in a 7-game series, I think they beat the Hawks.
He's Paul Hudrick at Paul Hudrick, and we'll take a look at this series coming up a little bit later on in the show. All right, man. Appreciate it.
You got it, Mike. Take care, man.